What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm on Toxin Gaming. Today I actually have a ban list prediction. Now, with the Xbox coming out here in late February of 2022, and also recently they bringing us this survey asking us a bunch of questions. On this survey, they asked us if we wanted a ban list, and I can agree that most, and I'm sure most of the Speedle community can also agree we definitely need a ban list. If not, this format's going to continue to go out of control. Decks that are going unchecked will continue to be the best tier 1 decks of the format, and there is no real power creep because they are all going to be so generic and so powerful that we can't get past them. Now, I'm going for traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list. I'm not doing the Duel Links ban list, although it is quite possible that's the type of ban list we're going to get. Now, the reason why I think that would be healthier for the game if we got a regular ban list is because when you're introducing new players or pre-existing players into the game, it's going to be a lot easier for them to understand, oh, I can't use this card because the game says I'm not allowed. Or, oh, I can only play one of this card because the game says I'm not allowed. Not, oh, a card's at 1, that means I can only play one of a card that's at 1, or oh, a card's at 2, so I can play 2 of a card that's at 2, and I can't add like multiples of that card. It's like a very confusing ban list for new players to get into. So I feel like just keeping it the old traditional way is probably the best bet for us. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to jump right into my predictions. So number one is the one that, the elephant in the room, the deck that's been destroying speed duels for the last year and a half now, almost 2 years probably, and that is the Parasite Paranoid Moss combo. So a lot of people feel like this card should be banned. A lot of people feel like this card is overpowered in the game. And in all honesty, I don't feel like this card is actually an issue. And I know, big surprise that the guy that always makes Moss videos doesn't think Parasite's an issue. But I'm being serious. I think this card can stay at 3. Now, I think that the reason I say I think this card can stay at 3 is because I also think that Cocoon of Ultra Evolution is getting banned. Alright? So, I think that this card needs to be banned. And the reason why I think this card needs to be banned is because it does so many things. You have a skill that's literally doing 2 things in one here. You're summoning a big monster by tributing an opponent's monster if you have a Parasite. And you're able to shuffle any of your cards back in any of your insect cards back into the deck and draw a card. So you're getting advantage. You're taking your opponent's monsters off the field. You're special summoning not one, but if you're doing the Parasite, 2 overpowered monsters that are way too good for this or way too strong for this game at the moment. And it's just like this card just enables way too many FTKs. As for Parasite Paranoid, it's the perfect like support for insects. We don't have any good insect cards in the speed duels right now. If I go here and go to the insect monsters, give me 1 second, I'll find it real fast. As you can see, we don't have any insect monsters that really matter. Like, and it still enables us to be able to summon out boss with ease and like queen with ease and armored bug with ease, but we're not just automatically being able to do it whenever the heck we want. It's controlled. They attack my monster. I have to equip it to my monster to get my heavy armored bug. I attack their monster. I have to equip it to their monster to get my heavy armor or my perfectly ultimate great moth. You know, there's just no real insect monster in this deck or in this game that makes this card overpowered. Um, it's just the combo this with this to get 2 of these is insane. Alright, so that's just my opinion on Parasite. A lot of people could probably disagree with that, and that's completely okay. I'm down for the discussion. This is what this is supposed to be. Next on the list, I have Zome of the Spirit. Now, I think this card needs to go to 1. I think this card is probably our best generic trap card in the game. I think that it's like a magic cylinder for the game. And, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this card, other than that I think it's overpowered. Being able to get a trap monster out that whenever it's destroyed just inflicts damage to your opponent equal to the amount of damage, I just feel like that's a little overpowered for this current format. And having it at 1, I feel like is very fair because you're not spamming it to the field every other turn. So yeah, that's my opinion on Zoma. So if you guys have seen from the last big extravaganza that Konami hosted, we actually had Union end up in the top 4, which doesn't surprise us if you've been paying attention to the format at all. This deck's insane. And the reason why it's insane is because of this card right here, Union Scramble. If you guys don't know what this is a different dimensional transport, I think is what it's called. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, this card. So this card here, Union Scramble, is this card for Union monsters. You do this card if you don't know what it does. The return from the different dimension says during the end phase, or pay half your life points, special summon as many of your banished monsters as possible. And so Union Scramble says target of your banished light machine normal monsters. Guess what? You only have 3 monster card zones and speed duels, or light machine Union monsters, and special summon them during his place turn. You just get to do that. And then with the Union Union Hanger, whenever this is activated, you just get to equip Y to or Z to your Y, and yeah, this also has a second graveyard effect, making it even more stronger, which says when you banish it, you can add another card to your hand that you can use for fodder for your fusion monsters. So I don't think Union Scramble needs to be at 1, or it needs to be at 3 in this format. I think that this card is way overpowered, makes the Unions way too strong, and with the GX box coming out, I have no doubt that we're going to be getting more Union support. So I don't think that getting more Union support we should be allowed to still have this trap card. So that's my opinion. It should be at 1. I don't think it needs to go to 0. I don't think a lot of these cards in this format need to go to 0, except I think for 3 cards. Yeah, 3 cards. But yeah, I think this card is fair at 1. We're not going to be seeing it as often. It's not going to be the Union Scramble Turbo anymore. It's just going to be Union monsters, and I think this is a good hit for that deck. Next on our list is Jinzo. This deck literally reshapes the entire format. We literally can't make trap decks right now because of this card, and I think that's very unhealthy deck building wise. Every single time I build a deck, I'm like, oh, I want to build trap monsters, and I'm like, oh, I can't play trap monsters in this deck because Jinzo exists. So it literally shuts down an entire speed duel deck that actually had a lot of potential if this card didn't exist, which is the endless traps skill and deck. But yeah, this is one of those cards I don't think needs banned, but as long as it exists, I think that the format is always going to be weary of playing trap cards. So no matter what powerful trap cards we release, as long as Jinzo exists, then the likelihood of us playing them are next to none. So 1 is what I would want to put this card at, but I could also 100% see this card going to 0 and being our first banned main deck card. This card is very good. It is a walking floodgate, and I think that keeping it in the game is just very unhealthy for us. Another card on our list is Breaker the Magical Warrior. If you look here, Breaker is played in, Cocoon, Moth. It's played in Inner Conflict, both Inner Conflict builds. It's not played in Union combination, but so you're playing it at 3 in this deck and every single deck. If you guys pay attention to GOAT format, this card's at 2, I think, in GOAT format. So I think that this card is just very overpowered. We don't have a lot of 1900 beat sticks in this game, so he literally fills that spot if you need him to, or he's your MST and is destroying 1 spell or trap card on the field generically. So you can literally throw this card into every single deck, and it's just a very powerful and strong card that everybody is spamming right now. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Has this thing where if you are spamming a lot of the same generic card in every single deck, they're going to want to hit it. And so Breaker the Magical Warrior has that risk. Now, do I think this card's going to get banned or put to 1? No. I think this card's actually going to 2 in our format. And so the reason why is because you can still put it into multiple decks. You just aren't playing too many of it. I could also see them putting it to 1, but 2 I feel like is just fair. That's just my opinion on this guy, though. Next, we're going to talk about the all-powerful Book of Moon. This is our enemy controller, if you guys play Duel Links, of speed duels. All right, if you guys remember enemy controller, that card was literally the best card of the game, and I think it's still played to this day. But Book of Moon Moon is our version of that card, being able to put any monster on the field face down, being able to play this into every single deck, being able to out the Jinzo or out the Moss. This card is insanely powerful, and it can be very problematic in the upcoming formats. So I think that maybe putting Book down to 2 is going to be a very smart idea. I could also see, like, with the Breaker, I could see him also putting it to 1. But I personally think having this card at 2 is perfect. It's like our best quick play spell, but I also feel like it not being at 3 and us being able to open it every single game, I think just hurting the consistency is enough. And then if it continues to be a problem later on, we can just hit it to 1 or ban it after that. The next card we're going to be talking about is Fear Kuribo. I think like Moss again played it. We're playing it at 1 in Conflict. We're playing it at 3 in this Conflict build. And we're playing it at 1 in Union. So this card is being played in literally every top tier deck right now. The reason why is because it's a battle hand trap. Whenever opponent's monster declares an attack, you send this card from your hand to the graveyard and switch that monster to defense mode. Now, that is very powerful because it can't get Breakered, it can't get Cosmic Cyclone, it can't get Night Beamed, and you're still able to negate 1 attack per turn. This card is a very, very powerful card, and Speed Duel is very generically powerful as well. You can play it in Relinquish, you can play it in Serpent Knight Dragon, literally any deck you want in Speed Duels, you can play this card. And I just feel like having this card maybe at 2 like Book of Moon is not a bad idea, just to, hit the consistency of it. Next, we're actually going to talk about Apprentice Magician. Apprentice Magician is a powerful card. So Inner Conflict plays it, and most Tribute decks you'll see playing it. Dark Moss plays it. Here, I think I have this as Dark Moss. Oh, it's not. Well, Dark Moss plays this card, and it just floats into a Maneater Bug. I feel like it's like not as overpowered as a lot of the other cards I have on this list, but it is a generic engine that can be thrown into any real deck you want to build, and it being able to like float into Maneater, I feel like it's a little problematic. So I think that just putting this card to 2 is not that bad of an idea. I feel like it's just, cuts back to consistency. It's not floating into Apprentice, floating into Apprentice, floating into Apprentice, floating into Old V. It's then floating to Apprentice, or Apprentice floats to Apprentice, and then Apprentice floats to Old V. And then if you have 3 monsters on the field, you can out the Old V right there. So that's my opinion on this card. Lastly is Waking the Dragon. Just like Jinzo, this card reshapes the entire format. We have to be very weary about cards we're hitting in the back row. Placement becomes a big thing with Speed Duels. If you see your opponents playing Waking the Dragon, if you notice they're always setting it in the middle zone, you know not to MST the middle zone. I don't really think placement is very healthy for the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's why I didn't really like Mech Knights or Magical Musketeers that much in traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! So I just think that Waking the Dragon brings out really powerful fusion monsters from the deck that shouldn't be allowed to be cheated out like that. Arcana Knight Joker and Thousand Eyes Restrict being the best examples of this. I feel like hitting this card to 1, it's fine. I feel like everybody's either playing it at 1 or 2, so banning this card, I also feel like it's completely fine. But I would be happy with it just being at 1. Alright, moving down to the cards I would like to ban, like completely outright ban, like we discussed earlier. Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. This card's out of the game, and then all of a sudden, Moss no longer is best deck. I don't think that hitting the Parasite's the correct option. I want to keep this card at 3. But I do think that hitting this card, banning it, eroding it, I don't care what you do, just get this card out of the game. Make it, like, do something. I don't know how they would even errata this to make it fair. Like, it's literally based off of an actual Yu-Gi-Oh card. So I don't know what they could do. But moving on, we have Inner Conflict, which is, in my opinion, probably the second best deck in the game. People will argue that XYZ is the second best, but I really do think that Inner Conflict is the second best deck in the game. So if you guys don't know what this card does, you pay half your life points, take a monster on your opponent's side of the field, and take control of it. And that monster just can't attack directly that turn. It's returned to your opponent during the end phase. So people use it to steal the monster and then tribute summon out their big monsters. Which is cool. I really like that. I just don't like that all you have to do is pay half your life points to activate this skill. Like, I think that's the most unfair part of this entire skill. You can literally be at 100 life points and then still be able to win the game. Like, this is the biggest comeback skill that there is in Speed Duel history so far, in my opinion. So this card literally just says, pay half. You can be at 50 life points, just pay half of it, and you get to steal a monster on the field, tribute summon your Jinzo. and it's just like I think that's very unhealthy. We should not be able to skill change of hearts for half our life points. I think that this card needs banned, or this card needs errata, and it needs to be a fixed amount of life points. Make it 2,000 life points, because if it's 2,000, that means you can only use it maybe once a game, unless you're playing like Ladybug or that fairy monster that when it's tributed, you get to gain life points. Like that's the only way I think interconflict can really be fair, is if it's a set amount of life points to 2,000 instead of half. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what your guys' opinion on interconflict is. You guys think this guy should stay in the game? You guys think this guy should get errata to a different effect? Like, what do you guys think? And then lastly is Twisted Personality. This card is absolutely bonkers. This is actually one of my least favorite meta skills right now. If you guys noticed before my channel, I actually don't play this deck a lot because I just hate burn so much. It's one of my least favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this deck literally promotes burn. And I do not like that at all. I get that that's kind of Merrick's personality. He was trying to burn his opponents out of the game with effect damage. Like, I get that's his play style, but like, you guys could have definitely made this skill way more fair than what it is. You could have done, like, this scale is insane. So each time a player loses life points, place one counter on this, max 3. Each time a player loses life points. That means when we pay for cost, when we take battle damage, like, it's not just effect damage, and it's each player. And the skill is insane. So you remove 2 of your 3 max counters, and you get to discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Like, why do you get the confiscation? Why is that your first part of your effect? And then if you remove 3, you get to destroy a face-up card your opponent controls. Like, that's insane. This skill is actually like the most generic and unhealthy skill, and it all comes down to the fact that it says each player when each player loses life points. Like, it should not have said that. This card needs banned or it needs errated. And the reason why I feel like it needs errated is because it's an easy fix. All you got to do to make this card fair is say, when each player loses life points by effect damage, place 1 counter on this card. That way, when you lose life points from your Zome of the Spirit, or your Nightmare Wheels, or your Master of the Cursed, you put a counter on this card. Alright? It's not when, alright, I attack Jinzo. I take 600 damage or whatever. Oh, cool, I get a counter. I activate Cosmic Cyclone or Twister. I take 1,000 or 500 life points, and all of a sudden, I get another counter. It's like, I just really hated that part of this skill, and I thought it was super unfair. I don't know what, I think his name was Matt Bell. I don't know really what he was thinking when he created this card. I can't really dive into his brain that much. But yeah, that's my opinion on this. I don't think this card should be in the game. I think that, yeah, banning it or, just rotting it is the perfect opportunity. But no matter what, I think this card needs banned. That's straight up. This card needs to get out of the game. There is no rotting it. Like, this card just, it's unfair. Alright, so there's a couple of other cards I wanted to talk about. So the other card is Shadow Reborn. So Shadow Reborn is a skill that says pay half your life points, monster reborn. But your opponent doesn't take battle damage this turn. This card's a little bit more fair than the inner conflict, but I can see it being a problem later on. So just generically being able to monster reborn any card from the graveyard, I feel like is a little. Yeah, so the biggest thing I gotta say about this is make it a set life points. It can be 2,000, it can be 1,000, it can be 1,500. I don't care what it is, just make it set life points to make it less generic. Or just ban it. The other card I want to talk about is No More Miss Nice Mai. Alright, No More Miss Nice Mai. And once per turn, when your opponent inflicts battle damage to your opponent, destroy 1 spell or trap card on the field. I also think this card is kind of fair, but it's still very generic, and it's like an MST. So the reason why I think it's fair is because its skill is mandatory. It's just, I don't like generic skills. Last on my list of cards that we should be looking more into is I'm Just Going to Attack. And this is a Joe Wheeler skill that says during your main phase, you can make a monster you control gain 100 attack points. And then during the battle phase, when your opponent activates a trap card, you can negate the effect and set that card. Again, I think this is going to set up for very unhealthy gameplay. I think this is going to be like once Jinzo gets hit to 1 or completely banned from the game, I'm just going to attack. It's going to be what fills that void for him, and I don't really know how to feel about that. And having a once per turn like I guess negate trap negate is actually very insane. But yeah, what do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you all. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you leave a like. And if you like me, make sure you subscribe. But above all else, I want you all to stay awesome and have a good day. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.